It's quite common to combine strings from constituent parts. You can add two or more strings together using the plus or the concatenation operator. So here's some code that creates a string and adds to it, or concatenates, one or two strings representing authors, placing a new line character after each phrase. So I define author 1 and author 2. I have a variable declaration for authors old, so this is the old way of doing things, or the inefficient way of doing things is probably more accurate. And I'm doing an assignment here where I'm concatenating together author 1 plus wrote chapter 1 plus a new line character plus author 2, this is all a single statement, plus wrote chapter 2 plus a new line character plus author 2 plus wrote chapter 3 plus new line character, and so forth through this entire set to create this entire string that I need to make from the constituent parts. Now on the surface, this seems perfectly legit. It's a lot of code, it's a little bit tedious to write, particularly if you're creating XML data from concatenating strings together. It's very common to do this sort of thing. So let me go ahead and run this so you can see the result. And I'll select L for use the string builder class. And there's the result. This is a long single string, but it has some new line characters, so it displays the information each phrase displays on a different line. The code I just showed you is straightforward and displays the expected result. However, it's very inefficient. The problem is that a string variable is immutable. In other words, you can't change it in code. So the code I just showed you assigns a new value to the author's variable several times. Each time that happens, the runtime creates another copy of the string in memory and assigns that copy the new value. This is a fairly work-intensive operation. The impact on the performance of your applications won't be too bad from using repeated concatenations, but the effect is intensified if you do that within a large loop that might perform thousands of concatenations. So the code I showed you just did a few concatenations. A large loop could do a whole bunch of them. So the previous code resulted in several different copies of the author's variable. One for the initial declaration, plus a copy for every time the code adds a string to the string before it. The solution to the problem is the system.text.stringBuilder class. It's the most efficient way to build strings. This class represents a mutable or a changeable string of characters. Therefore, only one copy of the string exists in memory, regardless of how many changes you make to that string. Here's some code that creates the author's variable and uses a string builder object. So this is an object that you need to instantiate into memory. So I'm using new string builder. This object will contain the results of multiple string concatenations, as well as other string operations. Using methods of the class, you can append new strings, including to automatically include a new line character, as well as insert other strings wherever you want. It's a versatile object in the .NET framework. Best of all, it doesn't have the performance penalty you get when concatenating strings using the plus operator. So once I new up the object, I can use the append or append line methods in order to add a string. Append adds a string to the end of the existing string, and append line adds a string followed by a line break to the existing string. So this code builds the same string that I did earlier using this code right here. But now I have multiple statements. I have an append of a phrase, and then I have an append line. That essentially adds a new line character. I do the same thing for each of the rows of strings that I want to include. The big difference here is that this code is going to execute much more efficiently, even though there's more lines of code. If I scroll back up here, this is relatively few lines of code. It's really only one statement, so it's a little bit misleading. This is multiple statements, but this is going to perform much better, noticeably better if you have a sufficient number of concatenations that you're trying to do. And this isn't even the most efficient way to do this. You can refine the code. Okay, so this code writes out the results to the console window. But then you can also insert strings as well. So from here, I'm continuing to use the contents of String Builder that I've already built and inserting additional strings. So what the insert method does is it adds a string to the existing string at a specific position. Append only puts it at the end of the string. Insert lets you put it anywhere. So this method takes as the first parameter the index position where you want to add the string. So here I want to add it at 0. And here I want to add it at the current length of the string. So a couple different examples of using that. So basically the beginning and the end of the string. And then the second parameter is the string it should add. All right, so this is going to add essentially what amounts to a header at the top of the string saying course authors. It's going to put it at the 0th position, which is the beginning of the string. And then I'm using another string builder object. No real need to do this other than I wanted to show you that you can use multiple string builders together. So the next chapter is designed in order to add another chapter. Here I've gone up to 6 chapters. I want to add another chapter. So I have this new string builder. I'm going to append author 2, append the string wrote chapter 7, and then do the append line. And then with authors, which is the original string that I built using the string builder, I'm going to insert at the end of authors this next chapter. So this is the string that was built right here. And then I'm going to output that result. Okay, I'll run the code again. And I'll select L for string builder. Okay, so here's the original string that I built. And then here's the one with the additional strings. So I added course authors, and then I added the chapter 7. So we got the result that we expected. Okay, now one of the things that's interesting about this code is that as part of it, I used the concatenation operator right there. Now you might think, well, isn't that going to cause a performance penalty? Well, no, because in this case, I'm not using an existing variable and concatenating to it. What I'm doing is I'm taking 2 literal strings that are in memory, concatenating them together, which creates a new string, which I then insert into authors. I'm already needing to create a new string in memory, and so this is not a problem as far as performance goes. So the bottom line is there's really no reason not to use both string builder and the concatenation operation together. The primary advantage of using the string builder accrues when you need to add many strings together in your code in separate operations to strings already in memory. But in this latest block of code that I just showed you, the code uses concatenation to create the string dynamically before committing it to a memory location. And that type of concatenation doesn't have a performance penalty. Okay, and then I can also replace strings within the existing string within the string builder. So what the replace method does is it replaces all occurrences of a specified string with another specified string. The method takes as parameters the target string. In this case, I want to replace Don Kiley with just Don. So I need a more informal form of the string. And I do that with Carol Kleckner and Carol. And then I once again display authors. So the overall result of this is to remove the author's last names from that string. And if I come back over here, here's the result. Don wrote chapter 1, Carol wrote chapter 2, and so forth. And then the remove method here removes a string from the existing string. This method takes as parameters an index position, 0 based as always, or pretty much always, and the number of characters to be removed starting at that index position. So what this code does is it removes characters from the beginning of the string that is currently within String Builder. So if I look at this again and scroll down, I removed the course authors and the line feed. Okay, so you can remove characters as well.